Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa,
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
and he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs. Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Raise a glass. The Kansas City Chiefs are still undefeated. It is a victory party. Patrick Allen Sterling Holmes here with you to celebrate yet another Kansas City Chiefs victory, 27-20 over the Las Vegas Raiders. But let's be honest, it wasn't that close. The Raiders got a gift, a garbage time tutty, courtesy of Steve Spagnuolo, because the idiots had used all of their timeouts. So he just let them run it all the way down to the 2-minute warning. Sterling, lots to talk about today. The defense is nails. Steve Spagnuolo's in his bag. D-Hop is going to eat in this offense. I can't wait until he gets a few more practices under his belt. What are your big takeaways from this one?
Yeah, 13 straight wins, 7-0 this season. The Raiders talked all that smack. Imagine talking all that smack and then getting your ass kicked yet again in your house. It's embarrassing, man. Max Crosby, Jack Jones. Again, I love Max Crosby, but at some point it's like, dude, you got to start winning. You have 2 wins this season. Congratulations, guys. This was your Super Bowl, and they lost their Super Bowl. The Chiefs won a Super Bowl in their house before they have made the playoffs in Vegas. It's embarrassing, man. It's embarrassing. Chiefs defense was incredible. Drew Tranquil had his best game of the season. I've been saying, hey, Drew hasn't really looked like himself this year. He was phenomenal in this one. George Karlaftis, after the bye, has been outstanding. You're right on DeAndre Hopkins, but man, I love seeing Travis Kelce getting more involved in this offense. I love seeing Mahomes and Travis Kelce having that connection yet again. So awesome to watch.
Yeah, he's really, look, Hopkins is really going to open things up. We'll get into it. But to your point, the Raiders, man. I mean, you had their coach in the offseason on a podcast talking about the Mahomes rules. They're going to rough up Patrick Mahomes. They're going to hit him. They're going to let him know that they're there. So in this game, the Raiders got 1 sack and 3 quarterback hits. Meanwhile, the Chiefs defense had 5 sacks and 8 quarterback hits. So maybe what he meant was by the Mahomes rules is we're not going to get to Patrick Mahomes. That's the rule. Or it's a rule that we lose to Patrick Mahomes. Whatever it is, that failed. The Kermit the Frog mocking, I'm here, that they did over in training camp, that didn't work out. Mahomes looking much more like himself in this one. Very efficient, 27-38, 262, 6.9 average, nice, 2 tutties. Of course, he had his game, every game, 1 bad interception that, is a freak thing. Ball gets tipped.
It was tipped. It was tipped.
Yeah, it didn't matter. Shout out to Salathi for the super chat. That's his tradition. 27-20. Yep. 7-0. Hey, Antonio Pierce. What happened to the Mahomes rules? Shouldn't you have won the game? Oops, I guess not. 13-0 run. How about those Chiefs? The first thing I want to talk about, Sterling, is this run defense, man. I mean, they get better and better every week. The Raiders knew that they needed to run the football to really make anything happen in the passing game in this one. The Chiefs, I mean, this might be one of the best performances that a Chiefs run defense has ever had. Alexander Mattison, their lead back, had 14 carries for 15 yards. As a team, the Raiders had 21 carries for 33 yards. That's a 1.6 average. Just absolutely stifled them.
Yeah, I mean, on the goal line especially, but you look at the Chiefs' defensive line with Mike Pennell, right? With Chris Jones, who had a nice tackle for loss, with Karlaftis, that being a strength of his, Turk Wharton perpetually getting pressure, obviously on the quarterback, but also they doing a good job in the run game as well. I thought FAU overall had a nice game. There was one play where I was befuddled on what he was doing, and quite frankly, I think he was befuddled on if he was supposed to drop back or rush the quarterback. But overall, I thought the defensive line, this was maybe their most complete game of the season. Very impressive on all accounts. Everyone showed a flash at some point. Again, Drew Tranquil was a maniac. Steve Spagnuolo, some random dude in the third row, I think, was getting called to blitz on at some point because Spags was sending everyone at some point. Trent McDuffie, obviously, on a phenomenal one as well. You saw Justin Reed get after the quarterback as well as in the run game. Very impressive. I don't know why that first drive they decide that they're going to just let the other team score. Like, I don't know. I don't understand this. The Chiefs defense goes first drive, other team scoring. We're going to spot you 7. Have fun. And then from then on, they're nails. It's a hilarious dichotomy, yet here we are.
Yeah, teams are in their scripts. They try to go against, they show new stuff. They go against tendencies. And I think the Chiefs, and I've thought this for a while now, early in the game, they play it pretty safe as far as their defense. So he did mix in some blitzes, and credit to Gardner Minshew. He made some nice throws on that drive. The Raiders did a nice job at a couple of different points in this game, but it wasn't enough. Once Steve Spagnuolo figures out what you're doing, you're toast. I think obviously in that drive, he would have liked to have only given up 3 points or, made them earn it. And they did. They matriculated the ball down the field. But after that, look, Gardner Minshew finished this game with 209, and we could do the exercise that we did last week again if we wanted to, where you counted up all the passing yards that the quarterback got, that Purdy got on the last drive of the game. It would be very similar for Minshew. Minshew had 120 yards or something before that final drive of the game when things were pretty much over and the Chiefs went to basically a prevent defense. This defense is phenomenal. They're a little bit shaky at cornerback. Lost, was it Najee Johnson that went out with the concussion?
Correct.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate. Hopefully he's okay. And then at the end of the game there, I love Jody Fortson. I was so glad he was able to get his way back to the Chiefs, and now it looks like really bad there at the end of the game on the onside kick. And I'll be honest, so that's what I'm worried about at the end of these games with the Chiefs, is just sort of like they're taking care of business, and it's like, can we get our defense out of here without anybody getting hurt? Brutal injury luck for the Chiefs this year. Brutal, but man, they're persevering. What else can you say about them? They haven't lost a game.
Yeah, the next man up mentality has been strong. Seriously, 7-0. How many guys have they lost? How many teams could suffer these sort of injuries and still win this many games? How many times have you seen excuses made for the 49ers? Well, it'd be great if it wasn't for all the injuries. The Ravens, but the injuries. The Bills, but the injuries. The Chargers, but the injuries. The Chiefs keep winning in spite of the injuries. They don't use it as an excuse. They find a way to dig deep and get it done. That to me is what's so impressive, is them perpetually finding ways when it's not always pretty. It's not always easy, yet they still find a way to come out on top.
Yeah, and I think, I see some people in the chat. By the way, you're listening to the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Do us a favor, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button and make sure you're subscribed. I see some people saying, we got to go after Marshawn Lattimore, get some DB help. I know Tre'Davious White's apparently on the market. I don't know how much he's got left in the tank, but don't be surprised if the Chiefs do try to add to this defense, because I think if you're Brett Veach at this point, you're looking at this team and you're like, this defense, it's better than it was last year. Even though they don't have L'Jarius Sneed, as a whole, as a unit, they're really, really good. And it is a championship level defense again. And then you've got 15 and Andy Reid over there on the other side, and Travis Kelce's back in his bag. So you really want to make sure that you have the depth and the injuries don't derail this defense, because they're special. And it's enough. This defense is enough to carry them straight to the Super Bowl. And when they get there, they've got the guys to win it. So I won't be surprised if he makes a move here before the trade deadline for some defensive help.
Yeah, they're going to have to try and what they did with Juwan Taylor, they'll have to do with one more guy to make it sustainable, because I talked with Matt Derrick about this. There's not really any cap space left after the DeAndre Hopkins move. The Juwan Taylor move, you got to realize a lot of the nuances with the salary cap of all the elevation from practice squad to not. Like, there's a lot of nuances in regards to the NFL salary cap that we're not all privy to. But a lot of the money, when you see, let's say hypothetically, like $3 million left, right? Well, each time you call up a guy, it's a couple $100K and from the practice squad money they're making versus an actual game check. So there's a lot of differences there that I think goes under the radar. They'll probably have to make one more salary cap signing bonus move to bring in anyone else, even at a very, very veteran minimum friendly deal, one of those moves. But it is something to keep an eye on because you're right. You know, Christian Roland Wallace was really solid his first game last week. This week, you saw him get picked on a couple times. I'm not saying it's the end-all, be-all, but it's definitely something to monitor. Joshua Williams has been really bad this year, which is fascinating considering he was really good last year in a much larger role. I don't know what's going on with Joshua Williams. You saw him get beat on defense. You saw him make a boneheaded penalty. I know people are saying we're trying to get the ball, all that stuff after the play. You're so far out of bounds. What are you doing? You can't do that. Stop that. We'll see with Najee Johnson. Might be just a week out with a concussion. We'll see. But you're right. I do think there could be some help coming in the secondary, but there'll probably have to be a prior move made in the salary cap front to make that happen.
Yeah, as you mentioned, they restructured Jawan Taylor's contract this week. I think that freed up that left him with about $5.3 million, I think the number was, of cap space left for 2024. So that's not nothing. But if they bring in somebody who's on even the last year of their contract, we know last year of the contract, depending on how it's structured, sometimes can be a little bit of a higher salary cap hit, depending on what their bonus was. So if they're trying to bring in somebody like that, you're right. They probably will have to make another move to kind of free up a little bit more room to do that. A couple more super chats to get to. Wiley Possum says, KC offense woke up a bit. Defense continues to be elite. 7-0. Karlaftis and Jones beast mode. Heartbroken for Fortson. But how about those Chiefs? Man, I just love every game George Karlaftis does something. Every game he makes a play. He's relentless. And one thing I've noticed about him is he doesn't lose sight of where the quarterback is. Did you see on the sack that he got? He had his eyes on Minshew the whole time. He was beating his guy, but he kept his eyes on Minshew, made a nice swim move. He was ready for Minshew to step up in the pocket. George was right there waiting for him, gets the sack. It's just, those are the things that as a younger player, as a rookie, he might not anticipate. He just might not have enough reps to do that. And now I think you're seeing the talent meet the maturation, and he's out there making plays for this team it's another game where you're not sitting there going, oh, Chris Jones, because he's getting double teamed. It's really opening things up for Karlaftis. What a great partnership those two have.
Yeah. Do want to give a shout out right now to Underdog. Been using Underdog a lot with my fantasy football team not being very good. So you know what's great about Underdog is you can do it daily, weekly. Pick the games you want, hop in with some folk, and you can try and beat them in fantasy football. It is outstanding. You can also pick higher or lower on so many different players' stats. I did a little tight end parlay in honor of tight end day, right? Tight end day was the other day, so I decided to throw some on there. Had a lot of success, and I had it all right there on Underdog. Also love their injury help right there. I was playing last week, and Jane Daniels was part of this group of picks I had. Jane Daniels got injured, and I go, oh, no, I'm screwed. Oh, thanks to Underdog. That was fine. They just voided that. They said, you know what? Jane Daniels got hurt. We're not going to take your money. We're going to actually help you out here. And thanks to Underdog, I actually ended up winning that bet. I hit that one. So I felt pretty good right there. Big fan of Underdog. And if you want to join, make sure you download the app today and use code Arrowhead Addict, all one word, to get to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, it's code Arrowhead Addict, one word, to get to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Just select higher or lower on your favorite players and cash in right there on Underdog. You must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, New England. Nebraska. My goodness, my dome is crazy right now. Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms of apply. Void in Colorado. Concerns with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY, or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Beautifully done. Another super chat from our guy, Swiss, a starting 11 member here at the Arrowhead Addict podcast for 25 months. We are 7-0, and we're not playing that well on offense. Hunt is a huge reason. What an off-the-street pickup. Yeah, Hunt, didn't have a crazy average today, but he just runs so hard. Again, you talked about the Sterling efficiency. It's about efficiency. It's not about yards per carry with what Kareem Hunt is doing right now, keeping the Chiefs ahead of the chains. And I just feel like Mahomes is starting to look more comfortable back there with the way the offense is. There's still some issues with Wanya Morris on occasion, struggles, but in general, Mahomes looks comfortable. He doesn't look like he's forcing it too much. He's finding the open guy. He's throwing the ball away when he needs to. This, again, we talk about it every week. They're figuring out who they are. And once they figure out who they are, they know exactly how they can win, what they do well, what they don't well. That's what the brilliant thing about Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo, Matt Nagy, this whole staff. They're not insisting on being a certain type of football team, other than they're insisting on being a football team that wins games. Got to run it? Fine. Got to throw it? Fine. They're going to figure out who they are as the course of the season goes on. They're already looking better. And as long really, I mean, other than that first drive, the Chiefs really just hurt themselves, right? Like they got backed up in their own end, and then
they do this every week, though. At some point, it's what I say. This is who they are. At some point, we keep saying, well, if they don't do this or they don't do that, they've done it every single week. And they keep winning. We keep saying, well, they got to stop doing this. I get it. They keep winning, though, and you're never going to play a perfect game. You're never going to play perfect consistently, but the Chiefs find ways to win, and that's what great teams do. I do want to talk about the offensive line, specifically Wanya Morris. I think that's a good call you brought up. But I got a really good question here from Zap the Man. Zap the Man says, are they overplaying Kareem? # slightly concerned. I really like this call. 21 carries in this game. And he looked banged up multiple times. Multiple times, it looked like he was wincing or grabbing something, slow to get up. And I don't know why they didn't rock Carson Steele a little more. Samaje Perine, throw him out there a little more often. Kareem Hunt's been really good, but we know his age. We know the workload he's had in his NFL career. Why not try and switch it up just a little bit? Now, again, if it's an important down, if it's 3rd and 2, you need those 2 yards, put Kareem Hunt out there. We saw what he did. That's why I say it's the efficiency numbers, not the yards per carry. When the game's on the line, you need to ice a game out. Kareem Hunt's outstanding at that. But earlier in the game, I wouldn't mind seeing a little more Samaje Perine specifically. I think that's a great call there, Zap. I think they might be running him into the ground just a little bit here.
Yeah, I agree. You got to be careful there. I mean, they need to do what they need to do to win. And you would like to see him more around 15 touches per game rather than going up over 20. I think part of the problem here is that they're winning. And so they're in these situations at the end of games where they need to run the ball a few extra times. Because I think they had that stretch where they brought Carson Steele in for a couple carries to give Kareem a blow. But at the end of these games, when they're trying to put it away, I understand why Andy's going with Kareem Hunt. He's notoriously good with ball security. And Carson Steele is notoriously bad with ball security. So that's, I think, working against them with Kareem right now. I wonder if they've been making Clyde Edwards-Helaire inactive, and I'm not sure what kind of shape he's in, if that's the reason why. But I think what we'll see eventually is if they can make it work, get CEH up on the roster. He's still young. He also has generally very good ball security. And if you're not feeling Carson Steele in the moment, I would trust CEH to hang on to the ball, go in there, eat up a few. If you want to run the ball a lot, given 5 carries to CEH, 3 carries to Carson Steele, and the rest to Kareem Hunt in games where you run a lot, that's going to work pretty well, and that's going to help keep Kareem fresh. He's running so well right now that, remember, he didn't have a training camp. So he comes in, really fresh legs, all that stuff. He's going to start to slow down a little bit if he keeps getting this much work. I would like to see CEH on the active roster here sooner rather than later.
I mean, I'm fine just giving some carries to Perine. Like, I don't think Clyde's doing anything that Perine can't. I'm not going to sit back and be like, oh, yeah, Clyde's a massive upgrade over Perine. And I get the Carson Steele concerns. Yeah, late in games, I would not trust him, at least not yet. But early in the game, I don't mind giving him a carry or two. But But yeah, that was a great question, Zap. I do think there's maybe a little too much workload going into Kareem early. I'm going to get back to the left tackle situation. I've been a big Wanya Morris supporter. I feel like I've almost been the number one Wanya fan club guy. But he struggled. And Michael Trigg, thanks for the super chat. This is great timing, Michael. Michael says, why not re-sign Donovan Smith for the stretch run and put this left tackle disaster to bed? I think part is who you losing. Because if you sign Donovan Smith, Kingsley and Wanya then are both on your roster, you're going to have to then release someone who you've been trying to keep this entire time so far. Not only that, if you sign Donovan Smith, you're for sure not bringing in another cornerback. You're not bringing in secondary or another wide receiver help. Monetarily, I don't think you're going to be able to do it. I think it's a great question there. If that is the Chiefs' most important way to use their salary cap, at least what they will most likely have left to work with, if they think that's more important than corner or the secondary help, then I can understand it. I just don't want to overreact after the worst game we have seen from Wanya Morris in his entire career. This looks worse than he was last year. He was brutal in this one. But I thought for the majority of the season, Wanya Morris has been fine. He's been almost equivalent to what Donovan Smith was last year. I completely get where you're coming from. I just don't want to overreact. If he does this one more game, then I think I'm having Donovan Smith on speed dial.
Yeah, it's tough. We don't know what the Chiefs know about Donovan Smith and the kind of shape he's in, or even if he desires to play. And for Wanya Morris, I think it's important for us to remember he has played very little NFL football. And so, I know it's frustrating that he's struggling a little bit right now, but you drafted the guy because you believe in him and you think he could contribute to your football team. If he's not an abject disaster, and he was bad today, he struggled with the penalties, he got beat a few times, you got to find out what you've got. And he's not going to get better standing on the sidelines. Like, he's just not. So if the Chiefs believe that he still has the potential that they think he had when they drafted him, then you might as well play out the string and let him keep gaining experience and see if he can be serviceable for you down the stretch. Just want to put a bow on what you were saying about P. Ryan, because I think you made a really good point. P. Ryan is he's 5'10", 236. This is not a small man, okay? In his career, he has 625 touches between rushes and receptions. He has fumbled the ball 5 times. So that is a fumble once every 125 carries. So I would say that's pretty good. I think that Andy is safe if he wants to give P. Ryan a couple of carries. I know maybe he wants him to be that pass catching guy, and that those are the packages that he's in. But maybe just work him into some of those packages where he runs up the middle. He's 236. Like, he'll be all right. He'll survive and he'll hold on to the football.
Patrick loves talking about packages. Yeah, I see here from Matt says Wanya got absolutely hosed on a couple of those calls. Yeah, there were a couple questionable ones there. They seemed a little ticky-tack. Anytime a defender throws his hands up after a play, sure feels like they get the call almost 9 times out of 10. I've always said that. I don't know why Chief defenders just don't do that more often. If you want to get a holding call, just throw your hands up. The ref almost always will throw the flag. But yeah, man, where I'm at with Wanya is kind of the same boat as you. He's not getting better on the sideline. This was his worst game. I don't want to judge him off of his worst game in totality. And I saw something from, I think it was David in the chat, and he said something along the lines of, sorry, my chat actually just went down. So I'm having trouble getting that pulled up. Can you see what that says? Okay, it's back now. Let me see. Yeah. David had a good point. David Dennis says, in his defense was against Max Crosby. That's tough. It was, but it wasn't always against Max Crosby. Max Crosby was moving around a little bit. He had one against a dude I'd never heard of before, Cookham. Again, I like Wanya a lot. I'm not ready to panic, but this was his worst game, in my opinion, by a wide margin. Yeah.
Again, you just got to work it out. Maybe the Chiefs target somebody here at the trade deadline. They've got Kingsley. He's somebody that they believe in. I'm sure they're working with him in practice. So we're just going to have to see how things go. Shout out to Rhett for the super chat. Says, if the defense plays poorly in a pivotal game, has the offense shown enough to overcome a poor performance by the defense. I would argue, and I don't think it was a poor performance, but they struggled a little bit in the first game of the season against the Baltimore Ravens, who have a very explosive offense. Lamar, all of that, they've been so good against the run. And in that game, the Ravens ran for 185 yards on them. 122 of that was, of course, Lamar Jackson. They did a good job shutting down Derrick Henry, which almost nobody else has done. I think that was a game where, now again, they had Rashee Rice, right? It was a little bit of a different story with the offense. But I thought the Chiefs showed in that game they could win a little bit of a shootout, 27-20. They scored a fourth quarter touchdown in that one. They're so good right now at controlling the time of possession. I think that just because we're not seeing the light show that we're used to with these guys, that maybe it feels like they're a little bit worse than they are. And the Mahomes interceptions, like those have been bad. But like, again, and we've been talking about it on the show, Sterling, they grind you down. They had 334 total yards in this one to the Raiders 228. They possessed the ball for 32 minutes and 30 seconds to Las Vegas's 27 and 30 seconds. They've just done a really nice job. So yes, with Patrick Mahomes back there and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce, when they've needed a drive this year, as poor as they've played at times on offense, they've gotten what they've needed from Patrick Mahomes. He runs the ball, he makes a play. So no, I'm not concerned at all.
I might push back just a little bit.
All right.
Like if the defense is getting torched, I am a little concerned. Like, I don't know if this Chiefs team is putting up 30. I mean, they haven't put up 30 yet this season, right?
Oh, no, but they just put up.
Highest was today. No, it was 28 against the Niners.
Yeah.
28. Like, if the defense gets torched and gives up 28, I'm a little nervous. I'm nervous against certain teams, this Chiefs team against right now, with all the injuries at cornerback. I know they're great against the run. And I actually think next week against the not anymore without Mike Evans. We'll see with Mike, no Chris Godwin. I would say a healthy Buccaneers team would actually be a dangerous matchup. Really good wide receivers. They can't run the football anyways, so the Chiefs' strength isn't really being benefited by that because the Bucs can't run against anyone. Like the Detroit Lions, I don't think are a great matchup for Kansas City as it stands right now with the injuries at cornerback. Like I think that would be a little bit dangerous. Yes, Mahomes. Yes, Andy Reid. But Mahomes hasn't played a clean game yet. Not all his fault. This is not me a blame Mahomes situation, but until the turnovers stop, you have to put him down for one turnover a game. That's kind of been my motto. Just until it stops, right in the INT mark, put a 1 next to it. So I would be a little nervous if this Chiefs defense had one real bad game that the offense could all of a sudden turn around and get it done, because we haven't seen any explosive plays this year. Last I checked, they were dead last in explosive play percentage. They're 7-0. Things are great. I'm nitpicking here. I'm giving the championship treatment to a team that's going for a three-peat. These are the type of things that you have to take a deeper dive in if you're going to beat teams like Detroit in the playoffs. If you're going to, or I guess that would be the Super Bowl. But again, that's what we're comparing this Chiefs to. We don't care about the Raiders. I don't care about the Broncos or the Panthers. Against the elite of the elite, how will they match up?
Yeah, I think the thing about the Chiefs, though, is that they force teams to play their game. They always dictate how the game's going to go. You come into a game against a team and they look really explosive, and then the Chiefs defense gets their teeth into them. They bring them down to the level that they want to play at, and the Chiefs always rise to the occasion. So situationally, they haven't had a game where they were really getting the doors blown off them defensively. It'll happen at some point. Maybe against Buffalo, they'll struggle a little bit. Where, okay, so we're going to start forcing the pass a little bit more. What they're doing in these games is they like where they have the team that they're playing, and they're grinding it out. They're running, as they mentioned on the broadcast, the run percentage for Andy Reid is like the highest ever for him. So like Andy's doing what he knows he needs to do to win. If all of a sudden the Chiefs are down by 14 or 17 points, they're going to start throwing the football. And I think that they'll be successful. Maybe they haven't proven it this year, but I think by the time we get to the end of the season, I think you're going to see things open up. DeAndre Hopkins, we should talk about him now. Just a couple catches in this game, but they were good catches. There was another one where he was open and either Patrick missed him or it was a little bit of a miscommunication about where he was going to be. He looks like he's sliding right into that Rashee Rice role. Big body receiver. He's going to find space in the defense. He's going to be a chain mover for them. And as the season goes on, that's going to open up things for Travis Kelce, who's already gotten going in this game. And then we're crossing our fingers, Xavier Worthy. If Xavier Worthy takes that leap during the second half of the season, which we often see with wide receivers, right? Like second half of the year, everything's slowed down for them. They've been in the offense long enough. They're not thinking as much anymore, and they just start trusting their instincts. This dude, like, he just keeps popping. Like, he's kind of like the George Karlaftis of the offense. Like, when he pops up every game, like he pops up, he makes a little play here, little play there. You don't forget about him, and there's been receivers on this team, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, who just absolutely vanish, or every time they're involved, something horrible happens. So Xavier Worthy, more good than bad. Is he great yet? No, but I think it's coming. And if it all comes together in the second half of the season, we could be in for a really exciting playoff run with this team, because his defense is nasty.
Yeah, for Xavier Worthy specifically, I know a lot of people will be a little upset with some drops or some balls that maybe he should have caught that he didn't. Some were tough catches, right? So I'm not going to blame it all on him, but a couple of balls that you would like to see him come down with. But what I liked from him, if you want to spin it as a positive, one, Mahomes is looking his way. That's great. You love to see Mahomes already looking his way. And you're right with the second half breakdown. We saw it with Rashee Rice last year, first half and second half. You saw it, I think, today with Ladd McConkey with the Chargers. He's been okay. Today, he exploded for the Chargers, right? Keon Coleman getting more involved for, again, second half of the season is when you see the rookies really start taking off. So great call, Patrick. But I like that Mahomes is looking his way, and the fact he's getting open. I love the fact that how many times have you been like, wow, Xavier Worthy was open on that play? Great. Like, that's a big deal. How often were we complaining last year that no one was getting open? Yes, he could work on bringing some balls down. I'm with you. I'm not saying he had his best game, but if you want to talk about sustainability, the sustainability is the fact that Xavier Worthy is getting open on multiple routes against pretty good corners, almost at will. The hands will come. I'm not worried about him being a consistent drop guy in the NFL. So maybe I'm too optimistic, but I think the big takeaway was that he's getting open. You're right with DeAndre Hopkins. Fun early. That first catch on third down, I was ecstatic. I was stupid happy. I mean, I was dumb. I was like, oh yeah, it's over. 3 feet, lock it. But I will say, you saw some of the nuances why he probably didn't play more on the play that he was open on. Mahomes overthrew him. That's where you have to play with each other. Mahomes was trying to lead him. DeAndre kind of stopped. That's all just playing with each other. Pause. That's all playing football together more often. So I'm not super worried there, but I think that's probably why you didn't see Hopkins on the field more.
Yeah, and we're probably already forgetting about Juju, but now they've got the luxury to let that hamstring heal up for him. And when he comes back, now you're looking at an offense that it's a veteran offense. He's another guy who knows how to find space, who has the trust with Patrick Mahomes. So if they want to put D-Hop on one side, Juju on the other, Xavier Worthy, running 9 routes, that's going to be a problem for defenses, because they're going to have to try to come down and deal with Hopkins and deal with Juju Smith-Schuster. That's going to open up one-on-one opportunities for Xavier Worthy. They're going to come. Travis Kelce is going to get, if they're double teaming him, then Juju and Hopkins can get one-on-one matchups. Those guys are going to win those matchups, particularly Hopkins. It's really exciting. And listen, I've got to bring this up. We talked about it on Thursday, me and Verderam. I'm just going to put it out there because the Chiefs are 7-0. They play a bruised and battered Tampa Bay Buccaneers team on Monday Night Football. Then they play. I know what Denver. You're doing. No, I know. I knew you were going to be. I knew you were going to get annoyed because you're Sterling. If they beat Buffalo, if they are undefeated when they play Buffalo on November 17th, this is their schedule: at Carolina, home against the Raiders, home against the Chargers, at Cleveland, Houston, at Pittsburgh on Christmas Day, Denver. I mean,
talk to me in January.
Do you want them to lose? Here, I want to ask you a question.
No, I
Verderame
don't
asked me
want
on
them to
Thursday.
lose, but this happens.
No,
they
but
lose
would you
again, they're
rather have
supposed to
that
every year?
Would you rather that have that hanging over their heads, like as they enter the second half of the season? You know, the undefeated thing. Like I mean, you know, the Chiefs, they'd probably rather like everybody keep doubting them and giving them bulletin board material all season long. But I want to ask you something that Verderame asked me on Thursday, and I thought it was a really interesting question. If the Chiefs do say they beat Buffalo, they'll kill Carolina, they beat Vegas again, they beat the Chargers, they beat the Browns, they beat the Texans. Okay. And they've got 2 games to go at Pittsburgh, at Denver. And they have the number 1 seed locked up. But they have to play at Pittsburgh and at Denver. Do you think they should play their starters in both of those games? Or would you be cautious, rest guys, and focus on the playoffs?
It's a great question. I think we're putting the cart before the horse right now because the Chiefs lose a game every year that they shouldn't lose. It's the NFL. I get what you're saying, resting and play. No, because Hollywood might be back at that point. Isaiah Pacheco, you might want to give some touches to. Maybe you rest like Travis Kelce, but you want the 1 seed and you want the Super Bowl. That's what's most important. If the undefeated season is tertiary, I think. It's Super Bowl 1, resting your players to get ready for the playoff stretch 2, 17-0 regular seasons 3. Maybe everyone else disagrees with me, and I know everyone's going to say, "Well, why not have it all?" Yeah, I would love to have it all too. I'm trying to be realistic. I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I just don't like doing this so early. It's October. Like there's so many games. Christmas last year. Did anyone think the Chiefs were losing to the Raiders? No one did. I just don't like doing this game because we've seen some inconsistencies with this Chiefs team. They're 7-0. Things are wonderful. It's beautiful. I'm thrilled. Every team in the NFL would love to be in the Chiefs spot right now. For all the talk about the Bills, look at what they're doing offensively. Look at the Ravens, who just got clapped by Jameis Winston. Yeah, maybe Deshaun Watson was the issue. Shocker. The Texans and all these other teams. Detroit just won 52-14. Wow. Even Detroit would rather be in KC's shoes right now. They're undefeated. But again, there are things to work on. And again, the 3-peat's way more important to me than the undefeated season.
I feel you. And I'll tell you what, man, when it comes to the way the Chiefs have looked this season, I would rather every single game be ugly. I would rather every single game they have to fight, scratch, and claw to win because it builds character. This is a team that knows how to win games. It knows that it's never out of it. Like these teams that are going around and winning pretty, and they're talking about them on the power rankings. Somebody this week was like, "Oh, it was a guy at the Ringer." He was like, "I'm sick of it. The Chiefs play such an ugly brand of football. I don't care if they're undefeated. I'm putting the Baltimore Ravens number 1 in my power rankings." Well, guess what? What happened to the Baltimore Ravens today? Oh, they look so pretty. Lamar's running around. He's throwing for 5 touchdowns. They lost to the friggin' Cleveland Browns and Jameis Winston. Screw playing pretty football. When you play pretty football and you're blowing everybody out, you're not facing any adversity. You're not learning how to win tight games. That's what you get in the playoffs. I don't want the Chiefs to just blow through everybody. Screw it. This is great. I want them to be in every single situation in the regular season. And if they do lose, I want them to lose where they learn something from it so that when they get to the playoffs, they're like, "Hey, you remember that game?" Like they remember that game against the Raiders when they got to the playoffs. They were like, "Bro, we can't play like this. We've got to lock in. We've got to focus." So I think it's good. And you see what's happening around the league right now. And we should talk about the landscape of the AFC. The Bengals lose again. They got smoked by the Philadelphia Eagles. The Ravens lose to the Browns. The Chiefs going for that 1 seed, they're in fantastic shape at 7-0. The 2 teams right behind them, right? The Bills and the Texans, they're 6-2. They play both of them. Oh, who's next? The Steelers. They play them. They're in complete control. They can even lose some of those games and it might not matter.
Yeah, I think the Bills are good, by the way. I think the addition of Amari Cooper, stats or not, you saw how it opens up things for Khalil Shakur. I think that's the biggest benefactor was Khalil Shakur because he's a good wide receiver too. He ain't a wide receiver 1. The Bills are a good team. Ravens, I still think are talented, but they clearly have some issues. They're not as good defensively as they were last year. It's not even close. Losing some pieces in the coordinator, that's big. You look at the Bengals. I think if you're a Bengals fan, you have to be terrified because Joe Burrow looks like ass when he doesn't have both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase playing at the same time. T. Higgins was out. What happened to the offense? Atrocious. What happened early in the season when T. Higgins was out? Offense, atrocious. So I'm just looking around here. If you're a Bengals fan, I think you're sitting here, you're terrified. But you're right. The AFC, it's the Chiefs, wide gap, Bills and Texans, gap and Ravens. Steelers are in there somewhere because they're good defensively, and we'll see how it keeps up with Russell Wilson. If that's consistent or not, or if that was just a one game, you rally behind a guy. Because I always laugh at this. It happened with the Panthers this year. It happened today with Cleveland. Whenever a new quarterback gets inserted into an offense, what happens? For one game, they look incredible. Yeah. They look awesome. But the sustainability is what's really hard. So with Russell Wilson, I want to see that with the Steelers consistently. But you're right, man. Everyone's looking up at the champs yet again. The back-to-back Super Bowl champs are still on top.
And I'll tell you what, and I have a healthy amount of respect for the Buffalo Bills when I say this. I think the Chiefs are going to handle them. And I'll tell you why. The Buffalo Bills the way that they're winning right now is by running the football with James Cook. When they get James Cook going, it opens everything else up for this team. If the Chiefs' run defense plays the way they've been playing against the Buffalo Bills, the Bills are in trouble. I know they got Amari Cooper, but the Chiefs can handle Amari Cooper. The rest of those guys on the Bills' offense, I'm not concerned about. And when you look at Buffalo's schedule, okay, listen to this, man. So they took care of business against the Seahawks today. They've got the Dolphins next week. That could be a tough game. Tua's back. He played well. They ended up losing at the end, but like his first game back, he's getting that offense going. Achane, Mostert, okay? That's no cakewalk. They'll take care of the Colts. Then they play the Chiefs. If they get by the Chiefs, then they have to play the 49ers, who on December 1st may be healthy. Then they go
Christian McCaffrey should be back then.
Right. Then they go on the road, and they've got to deal with the Rams. Oh, well, the Rams stink this year. Did you see him on Thursday Night Football with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp back? Totally different team. Then who do they play after that? On the road against the Lions. So, and then they play the Patriots, just the Jets. So they'll win out. But like the Buffalo Bills, they're already behind. If they lose to the Chiefs, I mean, they can kiss the 1 seed goodbye. And the Chiefs can lose that game and still be in pretty good shape. The team that I'm most worried about, to be perfectly honest with you, is the Houston Texans. Because they can run the football well, and I think the Chiefs can handle Mixon, but they have some receivers and they have a quarterback. I think they're the team vertically that can really challenge the Chiefs and the secondary. So that's going to be a really fascinating game to see in the regular season. But again, when it comes to the playoffs, I just have all the confidence in the Chiefs if they run into the Texans.
Well, what's so interesting, and I'm with you, and maybe I even overreact when I'm talking about, like, if the Bucks were healthy, that could be a bad matchup because they can't run the football and with Evans and Godwin, and now all of a sudden Cade Otton getting involved and all these dudes. But what's so interesting is Spagnuolo is the greatest DC in regards to taking away the opposing team's strength. Against the Bengals, it wasn't always stopping the run. It was, we're going to take away Jamar Chase. We're going to take him away. Against the Ravens, it was taking away Derrick Henry. Against the Falcons, it was taking away Bijan Robinson. But, like, to me, I find it so, even against the Raiders, it was like Brock Bowers. For the most part, Brock Bowers was held in check. Yeah. Like, I don't know how much it is the Chiefs are just so good at stopping the run, which I do think they are. But part of me is like, the Chiefs make the other team play left-handed. That whatever their strength is, we're taking that away, and now you have to try and beat the Chiefs playing the opposite style. So maybe the secondary against a really good passing attack like that is able to shut them down like we saw against Cincy. But I have just so much confidence in Steve Spagnuolo to come up with a game plan, even if the first drive is almost always going to be giving up a touchdown.
Yeah, it's Spags. And I said this earlier, like, they make you play their game on their terms, and most teams just can't handle it. It throws them off. Even if they do it for just a half. I remember the AFC Championship game against the Bengals, where Spagnuolo basically wiped their offense off the face of the map for the entire first quarter. They did absolutely nothing. After that, the Bengals adjusted. They got going, but that was all the Chiefs needed. They just needed to slow them down for long enough. We got one more little message for you guys before we move on, and that's our friends at Mint Mobile. Big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. So say bye-bye to overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected coverages, and say hello to Mint Mobile. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/arrowhead. That's mintmobile.com/arrowhead. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/arrowhead. You support the show. It's $45 upfront payment required, equivalent of $15 per month. New customers on a 3-month plan only. Speed slower, above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. All right, Sterling. Should we give out some hardware, man?
Oh, dude, I love giving out hardware.
Let's do it. Sterling loves hardware.
Yeah, I was at Home Depot and Lowe's and Ace Hardware all weekend, baby. I'm a busy man.
Let's get it. You're newly married. I mean, you got the old honey-do list already?
I also golfed Saturday. It was great.
My man. Hang on.
Yesterday was the day. Oh, yeah. Yesterday was golf, and we all went to the golf course afterwards and had a little spooky hayride. Oh, it was great. Electric.
Oh, nice. It's Halloween. Wait, what are you doing for Halloween?
I don't know.
You don't know.
Hand out candy. I don't know. Last year when it's David Bowie, it was great. Face paint and all.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big Halloween guy. I'm not a spooky boy. That's not for me.
Do you have a costume? Do you have a costume for tomorrow? We're filming we're recording the Arrowhead Addict Halloween special.
Yeah, I don't. I figure it out. Do you think I wing things, Patrick? I'll be drunk guy number 3. Like that's what I'll be. Yeah. That'll be my costume. Drunk guy number 3.
All right.
As far as giving some arrowheads out, a couple I want to give to, and one's a guy I've been a little hard on this year. Gosh, if this was radio, I'd be filling up the cut sheet. Yep. A guy I've been tough on this year, Drew Tranquil. I really felt like Drew Tranquil took a massive step back this year. I couldn't figure it out. What's going on with Drew? Did he need a bye week? I don't know, but this was a ridiculously good game in all levels for Drew Tranquil. Very impressed with Drew. Drew Tranquil gets my first Arrowhead. Second one has to be George Karlaftis. I thought Karlaftis was everywhere. Again, he was a guy who I thought after the bye has been outstanding, incredible against the 49ers. Then he was just terrific today. Just terrific. Very impressed with Karlaftis. That's my first 2. I'll let you get a couple out of the way now so I don't take them all. But my first 2 arrowheads are for sure Drew Tranquil and George Karlaftis.
Sure. Look, I got to go Travis Kelce here. Slow start to the season, whatever. Is he washed? No. 10 receptions, 90 yards, and a tutty on 12 targets. He did what he always does, which is eat the Raiders alive. And look, man, shout out to Justin Watson. Doesn't get enough love, always does, brings his lunch pail to the game, gets his 3 receptions for 33 yards on 3 targets. He's never going to blow you away, but he comes up with clutch catches for the Chiefs over and over and over again. So shout out to him. And let me give one more here. Got to give it to somebody on the defense. Chris Jones. I mean, not a crazy game for him. He had a tackle for a loss, quarterback hit, but he's Chris Jones. We talked about this earlier. Without him, George Karlaftis might not be getting as free as he is. He's been absolutely tremendous. He's the man. He's the man in the middle. He's the man in my heart, Chris Jones.
I want to give one more. We never give it to this guy, especially this year, but normally don't give it to them because it's an obvious one. Patrick Mahomes. I thought Mahomes was outstanding. The interception tipped. Is a tip ball his fault? You can make a case for it, right? Like, I get that. The whole tip balls, it's unlucky. It is unlucky. Not great, though. Patrick, one of his best games, if not the best game of the season. I feel like he was in control the whole day. And we talked about Xavier Worthy, how open Xavier was getting all game long, and he had a couple drops, a couple balls you'd like to see him bring in. What would Patrick's numbers look like if those were brought in? Well, he'd be over 3 bills. Like the DeAndre Hopkins one, where that's just a getting used to the guy. I thought this was one of the crispest games Patrick has played all year long, with his legs. Yet again, that little dive for the first down, 3rd and 12. I mean, I really thought Patrick Mahomes was superb. So Zap, look at that, Zap. We're on the same page today, guy. I like that, Zap.
Good shout out. I mean, they were 12 of 16 on 3rd down in this game. That's Patrick Mahomes. That's Patrick Mahomes moving the chains. Shout out. I'm going to give one more. Got to give one to D-Hop, man. Welcome to KC, baby. And it wasn't like he wasn't a factor in this game. He caught a 13-yard pass on that first drive, which was a touchdown drive for a first down. Moved the chains for these guys. So he set the table for what he's going to be in Kansas City. I couldn't be more excited for him next week against the Bucks, because he's going to have a full week of practice. They're going to start installing more things for him. He's going to learn everything. And he's going to get to play his first game as a Chief at Arrowhead Stadium on Monday Night Football. And you know what they say, man, big players play big under the lights. I think D-Hop's going to go, this is my prediction, he's going to have over 100 yards receiving on Monday Night Football against the Bucks. He's just going to eat. Patrick's going to feed him. I don't think Juju will be back. He's just going to be moving the chains over and over and over again. Look for a big game from D-Hop on Monday.
I like that. It's a good call. A little tidbit on that, because I do think it's really interesting. And I'm hoping D-Hop feels this too. We like to do a lot of fun interviews with some former Chiefs on this Arrowhead Addict podcast, and I had a chance to talk with Joe Montana. And I asked him, what was it like for him when he played his first game in Arrowhead? And he talked about it. He goes, Marty Schottenheimer came up to me and goes, Joe, this is going to be a little bit different. And Joe goes, dude, I've played in a couple Super Bowls. I think I'm going to be okay here, Marty. And he goes out there, and during the national anthem, when they did the home of the Chiefs, Joe Montana said he just looked over at Marty and was like, dog, you were right. This is
Did he say dog? He said dog.
I don't think he didn't
Marty.
say dog. You were right. But he was like, you were right. Like it's such a different feel when you are a Kansas City Chief playing in Arrowhead. He goes, he still gets chills to this day. So I hope DeAndre Hopkins has that sort of warm welcome. I hope he feels that, because I do think he's a guy who can play big for the Chiefs down the stretch.
It's a huge game. It's a huge game. The Bucks, listen, they're a good football team. Baker Mayfield's been playing really well, even without his receivers. They have found a little something, and Rachaad White's not been very good, but they've got a rookie in Bucky Irving who's been running well for them. They're using him in the passing game, so the Chiefs going to need to be on alert in this one. But I think they'll be able to take care of business. I'm excited. It's going to be a good game. Chiefs Monday Night Football. All right, everybody, we got to get out of here. So listen, here's the deal. We'll be back with our regular slate of shows for next week, and then we'll get you all ready on the following Monday for Monday Night Football with our pregame, halftime, and postgame show. On Halloween, which is normally my show, the OG hour, we will not have a show because I'm going to be passing out candy to the local kids who drink a beer on my porch. It's going to be great. But we're recording, as I mentioned, the Arrowhead Addict Halloween special tomorrow. It will premiere at our regular time slot on Thursday. It just won't be live. It's going to be me, Sterling, Adam Best, Price Carter, Matt Connor, the crew, the boys are going to be there. And we're going to be covering the scariest Chiefs of all time. I'll let you marinate on what that means. Good players, bad players.
Pre-recorded podcast. Spooky.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome. By the way, shout out to, I think it was Slothy that gifted some memberships. If you want to become a member of the Arrowhead Addict podcast, do us a solid. Click the link in the description. We watch the games in the private Discord. We're in a fantasy football league. Are you winning tonight? How are you doing? Have you checked?
I started off like 6-0, and then I lost 6 straight. And you get 2 wins a week, so I'm not that crazy that I think that there have been 12 games played. I think I'm getting my ass kicked right now.
Yeah, me too. Kula Chiefs kicking the crap out of me. It's
Yeah,
over,
they can
man.
get my ass
152 to 53. It's a bad scene.
Dog, your ass, guy.
I'm 6-8. Everybody's hurt. My whole team is hurt. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do. It's like a 20.
Oh yeah, just like a Chiefs. Maybe don't make excuses.
Yeah, you're
Just
right.
result,
You're right.
Patrick.
I should just find a way. I should find a way to overcome. All right, everybody. We appreciate you so much. Shout out to everybody who made today possible, from Adam Best and Matt Connor in the pregame show, Price Carter at halftime. Of course, my guy, Sterling. It doesn't do that for me. Why? Producer Richard.
Your heart doesn't look like a heart. That's why.
No. This doesn't supposed to do something. The thumbs up is supposed to do something.
Yeah, it does.
It doesn't. I don't understand. See, I must have a setting off. I'll ask producer Richard. Shout out to producer Richard for giving up part of his Sunday to make this happen. We'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.